It has truly been an honor and a very great privilege, especially during a pandemic. It has been wonderful working with all of the people I have, and I have a lot of thank yous. Thank you to you, Premier. Thank you also to the people of Newmarket Aurora, the wonderful community that elected me to serve at Queen's Park as a representative. Again, it has been an honor and a privilege.
What an incredible person Christine is. From the day we got elected, she's been shoulder to shoulder with me, side by side. We've been connected at the hip for the last 2 years throughout this pandemic. And I couldn't ask for a better person, a better friend, a leader, someone with integrity, and just an honest person. She's worked 16 years for the people of Ontario.
Well, there you have it. Premier Doug Ford's lieutenant is taking a bow after a grueling 2 years in which she had to conquer this pandemic as health minister and deputy premier. Christine Elliott has announced that she will not seek re-election in the upcoming June election. This follows a slew of other PCs who have said that they will not run for re-election. That number at about 12 now. Not only that, there's about 7 PCs who have either been booted from the party or who have resigned. Okay, we're going to talk about this, what this means for the future of Team Ford, and also with the upcoming election, with the reaction, we have Sabrina Nanji, who is the politics reporter and founder with Queen's Park Observer. Sabrina, thank you for joining us. And Alan S. Hale, reporter with Queen's Park Today. Thank you both, my colleagues from Queen's Park here. We appreciate your time. I want to start off with this food for thought. This is from columnist Matt Gurney. He writes about Elliott's departure. The most likely explanation for her decision is that she's leaving politics because the past 2 years have probably been the worst of her life, beyond anything she could have imagined. If you're so blindsided by partisanship that you cannot see things in those terms, well, that's on you, he says. Sabrina, let's start with you. What's your assessment? Is this burnout, or is this time to go, done with the pandemic, or done with Team Ford?
No, that's a great question, and we've kind of been left to speculate on this because, as you know, Christine Elliott's statement today didn't really offer much in terms of the reasons why she's bowing out. But I think we can all agree that, you know, she's been this steady hand. She's been the health minister. There's been plenty of shuffles in the Ford government in the last 4 years, and she's been guiding us through this pandemic. You know, we can't forget that Christine Elliott, before she was an MPP, that she has run for leader 3 times. She's in her mid-60s now, and this pandemic has been tough for all of us. You know, politicians, including the premier, they've been facing protesters at their personal homes. I think there's been some speculation that, you know, with a federal conservative leadership race, you know, Elliott or some other MPPs, conservatives, might drop off the ticket. And I guess we'll have to see if that happens. But, you know, I think that Christine Elliott saying that she's going to stay on as health minister, there's no doubt this is a blow to the Ford government. It's a big hit. It's going to leave a big hole. But I think they're very grateful that she's staying on and at least can guide us through. You know, we're not out of the pandemic yet, and we're getting close to the election. So I think that they're grateful that she's sticking around for a little bit longer.
Yeah, Sabrina, I think so, as opposed to Rod Phillips, who left his post not only as the MPP for Ajax, but his portfolio as long-term care minister. That was back in January, with still 6 months to go until the election. A caveat there, of course, he was engulfed in some previous, I will say, scandal. Alan, what do you think about this departure?
Well, I can't honestly blame her for wanting to leave after being health minister during a pandemic. It's certainly not something anybody wants to see happen when they finally get their chance to be in government again. I do wonder what this means for the government in the long run. She was definitely one of the most I guess, sensible of the cabinet ministers. She's always the one who tries to answer things honestly during question period. And I wonder if Ford has lost his rock. He talked so much about how she agreed and depended on her. And I wonder what this means for next term without her.
Yeah, what does this mean? Because when we look at polls from last month, I took a look at 5 polls. They provided a variety of results, as polls often do, but 3 out of 5 of the main polls have the PCs in the lead. Premier Ford said today he's got a better roster of candidates this time around than last time. Sabrina, do you find that believable?
I mean, that was kind of like a backhanded diss in a way from the premier, I thought. But yeah, they said that they had an all-star team the last time around, and it's even better than that. I think that, the premier acknowledged himself that there's big shoes to fill with Christine Elliott. But you mentioned Rod Phillips. I think in this way, they were a little bit more prepared. I know, Christina, we've been in the gallery for a while now, and there's kind of been these evergreen rumors that Christine Elliott might, not run for re-election even before the pandemic hit. And it seems like the Conservatives maybe had some whispers of that as well. Unlike what we saw with Rod Phillips, sudden departure, I think that was a bit more shocking for the government. But the Conservative Party came out, moments after Christine Elliott made it official today and announced her replacement, Don Gallagher, who, was the campaign, or excuse me, the constituency office manager for Christine Elliott. So someone who's not as profile as Christine Elliott, of course. It's a big loss, but I think, for the Ford government, it's going to come down to a regional battle. So Newmarket Aurora might be a bit of a swing now, especially not with a high-profile candidate. Ajax, of course, where Rod Phillips is representing. We're going to see a lot more campaign promises that are appealing to the 905, the North, the Windsor areas, places where the PCs think they can pick up. So no doubt this is a big loss for them. And the battle's not over for the Conservatives. You mentioned there's a couple of MPPs that have either crossed the floor, they're not running again. So there's a lot of incumbents there that are gone, and we know that incumbents tend to get a leg up on the ticket. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure the Conservatives are sweating a few of the local races right now.
Mm-hmm. And Alan, well said, Sabrina. Is this, Alan, a bit of a rebranding? I mean, there are 7 in the notes I have. PCs who either were booted from the party, resigned on their own, or told to resign. We have some high-profile cabinet ministers who stepped aside, and we're all members of the gallery. Have you heard the rumblings that there are a number of MPPs who have been told not to run again, that the party is not welcoming their return?
Well, yes, the PCs have definitely tried to stay away from hard right figures. They have kicked out a lot of people. But one thing that is interesting to me is, despite the attempt to try to rebrand, try to put more of a progressive edge on the PC brand, we do see that they are often falling back on white men as their candidates. We did Queen's Park Today did a analysis in January, and we found that 2/3 of the candidates nominated so far are white males. Well, that's improved a little bit since then, but with her gone, we just lost the most prominent, most influential woman in the province, and I don't know how much pro-worker legislation and other little giveaways that the PCs have put forward is really going to change sort of the calculus on, are they, I don't know, I don't know how many Liberal and NDP voters are really going to switch sides.
Yeah. One more question. Thank you, Ellen. For Sabrina here. Ellen made a great point about the Ford government has been criticized previously for a lack of diversity, not only amongst its caucus, but in cabinet. When someone mentioned this once to me, the lack of diversity in cabinet, I pointed out that it is the people of this province who elect, the MPPs, and then the premier picks amongst that group who he would like to be in cabinet. But in saying that, at the local level, is the party not doing enough to attract diverse candidates who they put up for contest here? When we take a look at the 2 candidates announced today, and Sabrina, you mentioned one, again, they're both Caucasian women.
No, you're absolutely right. I think all parties need to do more to, recruit more diverse candidates, folks that might not, consider themselves politicos. I mean, Christine Elliott was a powerhouse, but she also has a political background. Her late husband, Jim Flaherty, she was an MPP before, patient ombudsman. So she's kind of in these political circles. But in terms of rebranding, I think it's kind of been forced on the Ford government. I mean, the premier is completely, the pandemic has completely changed him. And we have seen them kind of pivot, when they've made decisions that are unpopular during this pandemic. We remember even before the pandemic, the budget that wound up in then Finance Minister Vic Fideli getting demoted, that was a really unpopular budget with a lot of cuts that have since been reversed. So I think that the Conservative government on some level is getting the message and trying to put the emphasis more on the progressive side of Progressive Conservative Party. Alan mentioned pro-worker legislation. I think we're going to see a lot more of that, them reaching out to maybe voters and groups that, might not consider themselves conservative voters. And I think we're going to see a lot more outreach, and that's going to, be reflected in the ticket as well, with a diverse slate.
Sabrina and Angie, Alan, as Hale, my peers from Queen's Park, thank you both for your time tonight and for your analysis. It'll be a busy 90 days coming up. We'll see you soon.
No doubt. Thanks so much.
Christina.
Thanks.